All right, guys. Mark Holthe here, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. Jumping on live here on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. There has been a lot going on right now, which, is quite surprising given the fact it is 10:42 p.m. And what is going on? Well, we just wrapped up a very, very long election campaign. And I think for the most part, most people are pretty ambivalent about the result. In other words, it looks like we have a minority Liberal government. So the Liberals had a majority before. So what's going to happen from an immigration standpoint? That is the question. And tomorrow I'm going to be recording a new episode of my Canadian Immigration Podcast where we're going to be hopefully talking about that issue. But right now, what I wanted to do is I want to take the next, maybe it'll be an hour. It'll be as long as you guys want it to be to answer your questions about Canadian immigration. So all you have to do is post a comment in the comment section, starting off by indicating where you're tuning in from, because it could be virtually anywhere in the world. And I want you to let me know where you're listening from. And then from there, post your comments, your questions in the comment section. And I am going to try to answer as many questions about Canadian immigration that I can. Now, the quality of this video is not as good as I have on my Facebook page, largely because I'm trying to do this from home. It's 10:43 at night. And obviously the audio and video quality is just not going to be as good. So I'm going to post a comment myself here. Post your questions. I'm going to type it in here. Post your immigration questions in the comment section. Okay, I just want to see how this appears there. So what I'd like you guys to do, I can see there's a few viewers that have tuned in. I want you guys to start posting your questions below, and then I will do my very, very best to respond to them. Okay, so we've got Tatenda that is tuning in from Australia. Very cool. Hey Tatenda, whereabouts in Australia are you? I have my brother Danny, who actually lives near Brisbane, and he's a dentist, and I'm always interested to see where people are tuning in from. So Tatenda, let me know where you're tuning in from. While we're waiting for other people to join in, and it looks like the viewers are starting to pile in now, for sure, let me know where you guys are tuning in from. It looks like Cabdi says, did the minority government be lasting in all 4 years? It depends. That's a good question. Anytime the House of Commons or Parliament is trying to enact new laws, they need to have a majority of the sitting MPs vote in support of whatever new law they're enacting. And right now, the Liberals have more votes than anyone else, but they don't have a majority of all the votes. So if they want to try to enact some new law or new regulation, they're going to need support from some of the other parties to get it passed. And that's what makes minority governments so interesting. So we'll see how it plays out. They could last 4 years. If they go to release a new budget or something like that, and they don't have enough votes to pass it in the House of Commons, then it can force an election. And that's happened in the past. So at this stage, it's going to make the Liberals much more attentive to all the other parties. They're not going to be able to just do things the way they want to. And the Conservatives faced that situation in their early days of governance a number of years back as well. So it makes for an interesting world, this political world. All right, good question, Cabdi. Okay, Tatenda is in Perth. Great, Tatenda. Marlon, hey Marlon, how's it going, my friend? He's watching from BC. Sasha, Jamaica, awesome. And Kellyanne is Trinidad. And I think Kellyanne, I think maybe I've mentioned to you in the past, my son is in Suriname. And there was a time where he potentially could have gone to spend some time in Trinidad and Port of Spain. But Trinidad is not easy to get a visa for. So right now he's in Suriname. And just had a good visit with him today. He's doing awesome. Raul is already posting questions, and that's great. Raul says, can I apply to permanent residence under the Canadian experience when I do not have a job? I have 1.5 years of Canadian experience. Well, I can tell you, Raul, if that Canadian experience has been within the last 3 years, then yes, you can apply. But there's a lot more to your question there than I'm able to really decipher. And so there's a lot of different factors. And just because you're eligible for, say, the Canadian experience class, does not mean necessarily that you are going to get an invitation to apply. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Lots of people are eligible, but whether or not you get that elusive invitation to apply, that's a whole new ball of wax. All right. So you guys keep posting your comments here. This is quite different, I will admit, this format. I'm using this software called, what is it called? It's called OBS. And like I said, the audio isn't as good. So I'm going to type here, how is everyone doing? Okay, so it seems like every once in a while there's a push out and then new comments come in. Okay, Cabdi says, did the NDP party will become the supporter of Trudeau's minority government because they are same in all opinions? Well, I don't know if they're the same in all opinions, but they definitely are more closely aligned to the Liberals than they are the Conservatives. And so, based on the government's current situation, they will rely heavily on the NDP to try to get things passed and to actually take leadership of the country. So, good question, Cabdi. All right, Elliot says, hi, I'm from the States. I'm dating a guy from Canada, and he says it would be better to get married to him after I immigrate because it will help me be accepted into Canada. I don't think that makes sense. The reality is if you're able to qualify independently through express entry to immigrate, Elliot, then at that stage, you don't need them. But I'll be honest, getting married and being sponsored by a Canadian citizen or permanent resident of Canada is far easier than well, I shouldn't say far easier, but if you don't qualify independently for express entry, then yes, spousal sponsorship is by far the easiest way to obtain permanent residence in Canada. So, Elliot, that's a good question. But as far as the guy you're dating from Canada saying it'd be better to get married after you immigrate, well, that depends on whether or not you can qualify to immigrate as it is. Elliot, if you want to book a paid consultation, we can talk about all of that. And I will just see if I can put this into, let me see if I can figure this out. I've got so much going on here. Make sure I've got the right page. There's my live one. I'm going to post that a link to book a consult in the comment section. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, so that was Elliot's question. Raul says, if I got an invitation, does having no job will affect on my PR application? No. If you're unemployed right now, it's not a big deal at all. Immigration doesn't care. The key is that you're just fully disclosing everything that you've done in your personal history section. And then from there, your application will proceed. But remember, being unemployed, they're not going to say, oh, well, look, Raul doesn't have a job right now, so if he's not working now, he's probably not going to get a job in Canada either. No, they don't think about that. And they don't punish you or prejudice you at all because of that. But do not, under any circumstance, list that you're unemployed if you are actually working. So honesty. All right. Zore says, what's the future of RNIP? Can qualified people from Pakistan get a job in that? The rural or northern immigration pilot is just in its infancy. And I'm actually going to get one of the communities to come and join me on my podcast to talk about it. I have to remember that. I keep forgetting to reach out to them to set up a date for them to come join me. So there isn't a lot of information about it. You guys are going to have to be patient and wait. But at this stage, it's just slowly starting to come to fruition. The federal government, has not had a lot going on during this election. Now they're going to get back to business. I'm going to be going to Ottawa in December to meet with the government once again. Whoever is the immigration minister and his chief of staff, we'll see if the minister is still Ahmed Hussein or whether it's someone else. But understand, excuse me, when it comes to the rural program, it's still in its infancy, and I will cover more information going forward for that. Okay, Yoel says, tell us about the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. Well, the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program is employer driven. So every bit as much as it is difficult to get an employer anywhere else in Canada to give you a job offer, it's just as difficult with the Atlantic Immigration Pilot, because that program, that's a federal program which applies to all of the Atlantic provinces in Canada, still requires the employer to do a lot of work. And one of the most important things is liaison, or integrating with settlement organizations to develop a plan for you as the principal applicant, if you've got family, your spouse, your children, to all develop a settlement plan to help you integrate into the communities within one of those Atlantic provinces, to ensure that you're actually going to stay, so that you're not just going through the process, doing the immigration to Atlantic Canada, and then, boop, hitting the road. So, good question. And I think some of you might also know that I have a, let's see, I don't know if there's a way to share my screen. My good friend Ralph, one of my favorite clients, I think sometime he'd indicated that I could share my screen in some way, but let's see what I've got here. Create highlight video, share, live stream settings, insert an ad. I've got all these things. I've never done this before, so I'm trying to figure out this new program, and the reality is I don't know how I can share my screen. Maybe there is a way, but I can't do it as easily as I can with my Ecamm Live software, which is actually really awesome. But I'm at home. You can see it's dark out. It is just about 11 p.m. and I'm going strong, and I'm excited to really get answering all of your questions. The questions are just funneling down here. This is what I love to do, guys. So I can't share my screen with you, but when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to the Atlantic Immigration Pilot, it really is employer driven, and that employer has to do a whole bunch of things in order to get an approval to bring you in. All right, let's see what else we have here. Next, we're going to jump to Sasha. She says, how to get a job offer. I'm assuming it says job office, Wilston, Jamaica. Well, oh, and there Sasha corrects it to offer. It's not easy. But one thing I can tell you, I just got back from meetings in Banff, Alberta, which are beautiful. And if you go to my Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page, the Express Entry Law private Facebook, and I can't remember if I actually posted it on YouTube. I don't think I did. If you go to the Facebook pages, I did some live Q&As on the top of Tunnel Mountain near Banff, and it's just beautiful views. So you guys have got to check that out, and I should probably repost them on the YouTube channel. One thing I want you guys to post in the comment section: do you use Facebook? How many of you that are listening here are also members of my Express Entry Law private Facebook group? And how many of you have ever been to the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page? So I'm always curious to see how many overlap with my YouTube channel and my my Facebook offerings. And so I'd love for you to comment in the section below if you are familiar or have found me on Facebook as well. All right, so back to the question of job offers. Well, the job bank is probably one of the main sources to start your search. In there, you can look at occupational outlooks to see whether your occupation is in demand in various regions throughout the country. But in my conference, the meetings I had in Banff with the Conference Board of Canada, one of the things we talked about is the future of labor shortages in Canada. And there are significant labor shortages predicted. So we've had a little bit of a lull, but things are starting to heat up now. And that's when employers are now going to start looking overseas to fill their labor shortages, because there may not be Canadians with a particular skill set that you have or education to fill the demands that we have. And so when it comes to finding that job, that elusive job, Sasha, the job bank is one place to look. But I'll be honest, Canadian companies tend to find candidates for their positions through known commodities. In other words, they're a referral from someone that they know. People make an introduction for you so that you can meet someone within the company. If you're actually in Canada and you're able to meet that person live, face to face, those are huge differences. But when you're in Jamaica, it's not easy. It really isn't. And there is no magic about it. It's just tough. How do you get yourself in front of an employer when you really don't know, when they don't know you at all? It's not easy. Okay, Tatenda says, I have been feeling quite discouraged with the CRS continually increasing. Are there any realistic options if I wanted to immigrate before the end of year next year? I'll be honest, Tatenda, why are those comprehensive ranking system scores continuing to go up and up? It's because more and more people have come over to study in Canada. After they complete their studies, they get an open work permit, then they work in Canada. You're getting 15 points or 30 points for Canadian study. After you've worked for a year on a work permit in Canada, you're eligible for another 35 points. And so you can see very quickly people who might have been hovering around 420 or 430 who come to school then are getting boosted, boot like this, to the point where a lot of people within Canada are now taking up a lot of those spots. And it's really difficult if you're outside to be able to qualify on human capital alone. That's your strong English, your education, your work experience, and your age. And so I recognize what you're saying, Tatenda. It is not easy. But one thing I will tell you, some provinces do have expressions or notifications of interest that they send out to people that are already in the pool. So if you're just under the level where an invitation to apply can be granted to you, sometimes if your occupation is in the right area, the provincial nominee programs will extend a nomination to you. So that's still possible, but it depends on your NOC code, and there is no specific list that they follow. Some provinces, like the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, have opened it up to a number of different candidates and have really opened it up to a lot of different NOC codes. But that means more people are eligible. And when more people are eligible to get into their pool, then it's almost like a mini express entry. Now you're competing against them, and those Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee points, because they have their own points assessment, it becomes more and more difficult, and you have to have higher and higher points in order to get those elusive nominations. So hope that helps, Tatenda, but I know it doesn't, because the reality is those CRS scores are going to continue to go up. All right. Elliot says, wait, so marriage first? Yeah, Elliot. The reality is if you don't qualify independently to immigrate as an economic immigrant, then getting married is the way you sponsor. You can't be common law unless you're living together, either in the US or Canada. And so marriage is the only way. But don't ever, and I will repeat again, Elliot, ever get married solely for the purposes of securing immigration status in Canada. Just don't do it. So make sure that when you are making that decision, that it is a real decision made independent from whether or not it's going to give you an immigration benefit. All right? Okay. Adidas says, is it possible to change my spousal work permit to LMIA or company-based work permit? 100%. If that company is able to get a labor market impact assessment for you, then wonderful, you can 100% change that work permit. And you know what that means? That means that you now have the potential of getting 50 more comprehensive ranking system points if that company is willing to give you a letter stipulating that they are extending a job offer to you. And if they're going to get an LMIA, there's a good chance they might just support that. So you bet, Adida. Okay, CabD says again, did the immigrants can get their availability chance in coming 4 years due to Liberals? Okay, well, CabD, understand that the Liberals, their policies are set. We've seen what they've done the last 4 years. And in fact, they are going to be supportive of immigration into the future. So I think the chances are still good that there isn't going to be any real major changes to the way the immigration programs have been run. And we will talk about that in the morning with my good friend Ravi Jain, who is the current chair of our Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section. Super good guy, super smart, cares deeply about the people that he represents. I am his vice chair, second in command, and I will be taking over the chair next year, but right now he has the reins and he is driving that ship, and him and I are going to talk about the politics of immigration and what we think may very well happen now that we know what our government is going to look like. Okay. If you have a question and you're just tuning on right now and wondering what the heck's going on here, there's this live video that Mark's doing. I am here to answer you guys' questions about immigration, and it's pretty open. I'm willing to answer just about anything. I also want to let everybody know in the description for this video, excuse me, if you click on it, you will see that there is a discount code. If you click on the link, that will take you to my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself course. It is awesome. It is the most comprehensive video demonstration guide of how to do every single aspect of the Express Entry process, from profile all the way through to ITA, EAPR, confirmation of permanent residence, right through to landing. And right now I'm offering 60% off the lifetime access. That's forever. That was typically $497. Now it is only $198.80. And based on my clock, 11:03 p.m. Mountain Standard Time right now, that offer will come to an end in 57 minutes. So if you want to purchase it, go to the link. Take advantage now because it's coming to an end. And actually, I made a mistake. I meant for it to be open today, but the other code that I used actually came to an end yesterday. And so I was wondering why people weren't buying it today on the last day. It seems like everybody is just frenzy. Oh, I have to get it now. I have to get it because it's coming to an end. But no one was purchasing it. And now I know why. It's because the code actually ended. And so I finally realized that. So if you type in EEDIY 6060 or just click on the link in the description of this live video, it will take you to where you can purchase it right from the Canadian Immigration Institute website. All right. Okay, let's take a look here and see what else we've got in terms of questions. Manny says, hi Mark, I have 2 years experience in my NOC X in company A, and then I joined in company B, still working in this. I worked for 2.6 years in NOC in the same NOC X. I'm not quite sure what your question is, Manny. Maybe you ran out of space. Okay, well, in X company A, and then I joined X company B, still working in this. I worked for 2.6 years in the same NOC X. Okay. If that's a total of 4 years, great. Remember, all you have to do is show that you have had at least 1 year in the same NOC. Once you've met that threshold and you are able to show that you have obtained at least 67 points out of 100 for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you're outside of Canada, then that's the threshold. Once you've met that, even if it's only 1 year, then for the comprehensive ranking system, you can use other NOC codes, other positions. You can even break them into pieces. They don't have to be continuous. So that is something that lots of people don't understand. All right. Okay. Elliot says add. Okay, not quite sure what that means. Add source. Don't know what that means. Okay. Manny says now. Oh, here we go. Okay, now I just changed my designation and hence my NOC is changed. I want to know if I can apply 2 years of my old company plus 1 year of my current company to make it a total of 3 years for maximum points. Yes, you can. As long as the other elements are met, that you're paid, that it's skilled, that it is at least 30 hours per week. So all of those things play in. If you're new to this and you just jumped on and you're wondering what Mark is doing right now, I'm answering your live questions about Express Entry. I've devoted time before I go to bed here. It's late. It's 11:06 p.m. That's why I've got this, this weird setup here. Not typical for what I usually do. The audio is not as good because I don't have my fancy mic. It's just me and my little Mac Mini here that I'm using. And I've got my light burning my eyes out so that I'm basically, well, actually, they're not looking too bloodshot right now. I'm sure they will be in about 30 minutes or so when I wrap this up. But if you have a question, post it in the comments, and I'm slowly working my way down answering everybody's questions live. This is awesome, isn't it? I love doing this. Okay, let's see what we've got going on. Okay, Sasha says, I joined the Facebook with you. Awesome, thank you. Great to connect with you. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Cabdi says, I'm a newly camer and I recorded that I have 4 brothers. Can I take my brothers in Africa to come in Canada? Probably not. If your brothers are all over age and they rarely can be considered as dependents within your application. But I'll be honest, Cabdi, in order to sort out that question, I need a whole lot more information. I'd actually recommend that you consider booking a paid consult. Okay, Tatenda says, I'm in both, but YouTube works better. Lesser distractions. Okay, well, I like that. That sounds good. Maybe you can expand on that, Tatenda. I'm not sure exactly where the distractions are. I do know that it's definitely easier because the videos are easier to find, and that's why I've been posting them here. And we are, I don't know what we're at, 15,000 members or something like that, which is really cool. So I'm hoping that this YouTube channel will also grow and expand. And how do you do that? You just try to do helpful videos like this, and then you guys let other people know about it. And you like it and subscribe and let other people know that, hey, Mark does these videos and he's an immigration lawyer. He gets on here and he just starts answering questions. And that's pretty much what I do. While everyone else pays for they make you pay to get these questions answered. Don't get me wrong, I definitely do. And when questions become very specific and it is really specific legal advice, then I don't answer them here. I direct you to book a paid consultation, and that's what I love to do. I had 5 consults today at the office. I had 1 2-hour review of an express entry application, and then in the evening I had another detailed conversation with another client who's got their application refused, and it is going to be a challenge to get it resubmitted and approved. But I will fight to the very bitter end for that client. I will do everything in my power to help them, and I will keep you guys posted because that situation was sad. The client got their NOT code wrong, and because of that, their application got returned, even though they're working in Canada on a valid work permit. And really, there wasn't a real big difference, but they had some issues with how they did it, and it was clearly wrong. They made a mistake. They thought they'd done it right. And their whole ability and dream of coming and staying permanently in Canada could be negatively impacted, and they could lose that opportunity. So because of that, they've now reached out to me, which is usually the case. Instead of people just hiring me from the beginning to get it done right the first time, I spend a lot of my time trying to fix problems that they have created, or their consultant has created, or the problems that their helpful friends or their other helpful fellow internet people have given them advice. And so one of the biggest issues I face is when someone goes through themselves and immigrates, and then they assume that they're an expert. So because their process that they followed worked for them, they then assume that it's going to work for everybody else. And the absolutely horrific issue with that is that they don't even know what they don't know. And so they go through and they tell you, well, I did this and it worked for me. And then you go do it, and guess what happens? The officer adjudicating your application is smart and has attention to detail and realizes that what you're doing is not right and refuses your application. Whereas your helpful friend on the internet or your buddy who did the exact same thing you did is now a permanent resident of Canada because the officer adjudicating their application did not catch that issue. And all along, your helpful friend says, if you do it the way I do, you're going to get PR, when they're actually doing it wrong and they don't even know it. So watch the video here on our YouTube channel that's called Heartbreaking Immigration Story, and you'll learn more. That's why I created my Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. Not all of you are going to contact me. Not all of you are going to book a paid consultation. Well, for less than the fee you'd pay for a consultation with me, you get the whole Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. So go to the description. If there's any issues finding it, I can put it in the link. Type in that code if you're not clicking on the link. Go to the Canadian Immigration Institute website. Go to the section called Individual Guides. Follow the links till you get to purchasing lifetime access and type in the code EEDIY60 and that will give you the 60% off. Okay? Take advantage. We've got 48 minutes and that deal is going to be over. Okay, let's see what we have here. Let's continue cruising down here. And remember, if you're new to this and you're wondering what's going on, who's this immigration lawyer, what is he doing, post comments below and I will go through systematically and answer them. And what better way to show people that I have somewhat of an idea of what I'm doing than to have the ability to just sit here live and answer your questions. And there's so many people out there that are professing they know all about immigration with their recorded videos where it's all scripted and there's no opportunity for you to ask a question that's going to surprise them. Well, anybody can do that. But this is where the rubber hits the road, as we say. If I don't know what I'm doing now, I'm going to look like a fool. Fortunately, I haven't had too many opportunities where I've looked goofy or not had an answer. Very few people can stump me these days. But sometimes, every once in a while, they do. And then I take that question, I take it back, I make sure I get the answer, and then boom, I bring it back for another video. Okay, all right, let's keep cruising through here. Okay, Kellyanne says, what is the purpose of the job seeker code? A job is so difficult to get while outside of Canada. Kellyanne, the job seeker code is really pretty irrelevant these days. It used to be a mandatory component of Express Entry. In other words, in order for you to go through, you actually had to go through and post your profile on the job bank. So the government was trying to do all they could to match employers to employees. So it's kind of like the eHarmony of employment in Canada. But they realized that employers just weren't making connections, and so they stopped making it a mandatory component of the Express Entry process. Now it's just up to you if you want to do it or not. All right. Frank Wonder says hi, and he says, how can I, as a Canadian citizen, become an illegal immigrant because of some loophole that I have to deal with? That is hilarious, Frank. I have no clue what you're asking, my friend. You as a Canadian citizen can become an illegal immigrant? Well, if your whole Canadian citizenship was obtained via fraud, if you lied about everything to get citizenship, and the government determines that there was misrepresentation, then they can unravel your citizenship and revoke it and send you packing. And that happens to a lot of people who use these consultants who are scamming the system, and we've seen it in the paper, and they're out there. Okay, Elliot says, LOL, don't worry, I want to marry him because I love my man. I rather him come here, but he thinks the States are the worst. Thank you for the thought. I'm going to point him in your direction. Thank you. Elliot, that is hilarious. That is so funny. Awesome. That's why I love this. It's just so fun. Okay, Suraj says, hey, do we need to have one continuous year of work experience for federal skilled program? Or 6 months in company A plus 6 months in company B will work as well? The most important part is continuous. That 1 year of continuous can happen in a number of different ways. You can work for one company, 30 hours a week, paid, and 30 hours a week is considered full-time. Paid, skilled, and it's continuous for that 1 year. Okay, that's one way. Another way is you work for two companies at the same time. You work 15 hours for one and 15 hours for another, which combined equals full-time in the same knock. You work that for a full year, that works. Another option for you is you're working full-time in the same knock for one company. You have no break, but you then start working for another one in the same knock, so the same position, continuous, paid full-time 30 hours a week over the course of the year. So you can, in those circumstances, combined. But it has to be the same knock. So there you have it. Okay. It is possible, but I want to tell you, Suraj, that it has to be documented very carefully, and it's not an easy thing. Okay. Salmon says, hi, if my spouse has contributed towards my funds by giving some amount of his salary every month, should I declare his credit card details as well? I am the primary applicant. Well, I believe, at least for myself, in being very proactive with what I do. I want the officer to see everything right up at the front, and I want to identify or address any problem areas very, very proactively. So I don't want to wait and have an officer make certain determinations or assumptions about the application I'm submitting, and then after they've already started to formulate their opinion as to what your client or your situation really is, and then leave us up to try to catch up and justify. I don't want to do that. I want to say, here's the problem that you're probably going to have, and here's why it's not a problem. And I put that right out front and address it head on. It's more efficient for the officer. It helps me to dictate or at least direct the officer into the things and the way of thinking that I want them to think. Now, obviously, I can't influence an officer. They know what they're doing. Well, the reality is if I put a rockin' awesome application together and I provide everything that officer needs to make the decision I want them to, well, then I give my client the best chance possible. All right. So in terms of the credit card, Salmon, rolling all the way back, I don't think there's any reason not to include it. But from a legal standpoint, there is no obligation to provide an accompanying spouse's credit card. It's only the proof of funds for the principal applicant that really applies. Okay, I should have brought a glass of water in here. I think my throat's going to be dead by the time I'm done this. I may need to very well step out and take a break and get a quick drink. I'm not quite there yet, but we'll see. Okay, Manny says, hey Mark, can I have 2 years experience? Okay, you already asked me that question. Okay, Suraj says, can I add graduate teaching assistant job 20 hours a week for 3 semesters with semester breaks as my job experience? If yes, can I use 20 hours per week or only 15 hours per week? Okay, the first thing, Suraj, is that you need to make sure that you can show that you have at least 1 year continuous full-time work experience or 2 years part-time. Full-time is 30 hours, part-time is 15. You can't work 20 hours per week and then try to accumulate that part-time faster. It still has to be a full 2 years. If you are working at least 30 hours, which you're not, then that can be done in 1 year. But it has to be continuous. And from your question, you have to understand here, you're trying to accumulate more months by counting more hours, but the government doesn't do that. Once you've met the 15 threshold, then you have to work 24 months. If you hit the 30 hour per week threshold, then that is 1 year. But you can't work 60 hours a week and accumulate your minimum 1,560 hours of work in 6 months and say, voila. They don't count hours after you've met that maximum, either 15 for part-time, 30 for full-time. Okay, this is hilarious. Okay, this question is from Business Trick. Any chance to apply express entry application for a chef? Absolutely, why not? It all comes down to your comprehensive ranking system score. And I strongly encourage you that you go to the description for this video and click on the link and purchase a subscription. You can get a lifetime subscription to my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. That guide will walk every single person, no matter what stage you're at, through everything from what Express Entry is, how you qualify, how you determine if you even have a chance of being eligible to submit. If your score is too low, there's even videos on how to increase your comprehensive ranking system score. And for you, Business Trick, it talks about the main criteria for Express Entry and really what it takes to get an invitation to apply today. So the one challenge you're probably going to face, Business Trick, is that it's not always easy to have sufficient education. But in Alberta, I should say not Alberta, across the country, a chef is a trade level position. So maybe there's an opportunity for eligibility through one of the federal skilled trade programs. But I'd really need to know what you're doing with your chef role. And so, business trick, you might want to just book a consult so we can chat. All right. Sudansu says, hello, Mark. Hello. Vikrand says, can you share some specifics? You're the second one to ask this. Of the northern and rural immigration pilot. And are those communities good to consider to settle in? Well, of course they're good communities. The government never would approve them as potentials to be involved if they weren't good communities. In fact, one is really close to my home, and I'm going to have the representatives from that group join me on an upcoming Canadian immigration podcast. So those of you probably don't even know that I have the Canadian immigration podcast, which is on iTunes. You can subscribe there or go to the Canadian immigration podcast site. And the last podcast that I did was all about express entry. So you guys should check it out. Especially those of you who have long commutes to work, the podcast is awesome because you can sit and listen while you're driving or while you're riding the transit to work in the mornings. Okay, Ajiboy says, just joining the live chat. Want to know the chance of visiting visa for a family of 5 when only the father has travel experience. Ajiboy, I can tell you that every single individual is different. Every country is different. And it depends on the officer who's actually looking at your application. It depends on your ties to your home country. Do you have lots of resources? Do you have a home that you own? Do you have a job that you're returning to? Are you going on a visit with your family over the children's regular school break and they are going to go back? Do you have a letter from your company saying that they're granting you a leave for a vacation? And like I said, do you have lots of money to support yourself? All those things are factors. All right. Sudansu says, can we apply for multiple programs at once, such as PMP, RNIP, AIPP, and Express Entry? Yes, you can. The only caveat I will give is that Quebec is a wild card. And if you're looking to go to Quebec, Express Entry ain't the role for you because in order to qualify under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Canadian Experience Class, or the Federal Skilled Trade Program, you have to demonstrate an intention to reside outside the province of Quebec. And if you're applying for Quebec programs at the same time that you're applying through Express Entry, an officer could question that. Alrighty. Vivek says, hi Mark, I have trade certification. However, as I am new to trade, regulatory authority has issued me trainee certificate, which is exact similar to actual certificate. Will I be eligible for 50 points? Vivek, federal skilled trade is not easy, and I would need a whole lot more information in order to tell you that. I recommend that you book a consult with me. And I have posted that link already in the link below. I'll copy that and I will post it now to find the page that I have this. Is it here? There it is. I'm going to post this in the link and I'm going to hit enter. That should post it there. Then I'm also, for you guys, going to type in here, Canadian Immigration Institute, and I want you guys to go check it out. The Canadian Immigration Institute, and I'm going to, and I know you guys have probably in the description section have seen this, have seen exactly what I am trying to show you now, but I'm just going to put those two links. One is your ticket to Canada, which is the link to the course. You guys have approximately 35 minutes to purchase it using this guide, and then it will come to an end. And do you know what? I'm going to ride this all the way through right to midnight. So for all of you who are tuning in and are watching this live, I'm going to keep going for another 34 minutes and answering all of your questions here. But I can't tell you enough. The answers that I give you are information. And you then take that information and try to figure out how to apply it to actually filling out the forms. But the Express Entry step-by-step guide is a video screen share of me walking through a real live express entry profile, and the part that took me the longest, hundreds of hours, are the individual lessons for each section of the EAPR, the Electronic Application for Permanent Residence. And unless you're actually in it, you don't realize that I had to spend hours redacting or blurring out the personal and confidential information of my clients who gave me permission to use their EAPR as a template to teach others how to do it. And so the reason you don't see anything like this out on the internet, any step-by-step guide that's a video guide that actually demonstrates, it's because no one in their right mind is going to spend as much time as I did to do it. So all I can say is for $198.80 US, it is totally worth it. But you have only about 30 minutes to take advantage of that coupon code EEDIY60, and then that offer is going to come to an end and it's going to revert back to the $497 US. I do this as a way to give back because trust me, there's no incentive for me to really give any discounts on it unless it's just a way for me to say thank you to everybody that is a part of this awesome Canadian Immigration Institute family. And there's nothing that I love more than getting emails, and I'm going to read this one to you guys, and then I'm going to jump back in and start answering more questions. But this is the thing that gives me the absolute most joy. And so if we go in here and we go to the email, this one came from Omer. He said, this is Omer. Hope you remember, and I feel immense happiness to state that we have received our COPR today, the Confirmation of Permanent Residence. And this one came in, I get them usually every day. This one, the application was approved on October the 17th. I have no doubt in saying that without you, this dream would have stayed a dream. It was your go-ahead and guidance just a night before the draw that I managed to submit it on time and got my ITA, and the rest is history. And I remember that. I killed myself to make sure that we got everything in place so that he could get his application submitted. And then the very next day he got his invitation to apply. And I can tell you, if it was now, his CRS score would not be high enough. And that's why if you qualify now, you must act now. You must get your profile in. You cannot delay. And so for Omer, he says here, I wish I could refer each and every person to you. And thank you once again for making a huge contribution in my and my family's life. Thanks a million. Sincerely yours, Omer. And I can tell you that there is nothing that gives me greater joy than to see people's lives change because of what I do for them. How could you ever replace, like, what an awesome job I have. Is it stressful? Yeah, it's super stressful. But it gives me unbelievable satisfaction because of responses that I get back on my, in my email from past clients and people that have used my Express Entry DIY guide. It's just so rewarding. And when you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute website and click on the link that I posted below, it has a ton of other video testimonials from people who have actually used it and gone through and are now permanent residents of Canada. Okay, let's keep boogieing on down here. Vikrant also wants more information about the Northern and Rural Immigration Pilot. There's not much that I can add to that. Let's see here. Sudanza says, can we apply multiple programs? Yeah, we covered that. Vivek, we talked about his question here. Let me just see if I can get back to Vivek. Oh, it's jumping. Oh, looks like we got a bunch that all popped in here. Okay. Yes. Okay. Sukhvir says, hi, I got an ITA on NOC B level job under CEC, but on my reference letter it is mentioned as full-time contract. Will it be a problem? Sukhvir, this is one of those exact specific questions that I really need to encourage you to book a consult. I need to look at it in context in order to give you advice. And because it's specific, it's not something that I can really do in the context of a live YouTube video. Okay, so I recommend that you book a consult so that we can take a very close look at it and make sure that it will work. The last thing you want is to get it rejected 4 months down the line and then you don't qualify for another ITA. Okay, Cindy D says, hey Mark, happy face, you're awesome in spectacle. I'm assuming my glasses. Oh yeah, I don't usually wear these critters. Could you please explain R87.1 for a Quebec resident, non-resident, and what condition this is applicable? Cindy, I want you to go to my Canadian Immigration podcast, and I'm going to put the link here for you because I just traveled out to Quebec and gave a presentation on express entry to Quebec-based immigration lawyers. They were kind enough to invite me to go out there, and I had so much fun. They treated me so well, and we talked specifically about the different regulations that apply to express entry and I'm just flipping through here, that apply to express entry with respect to Quebec residents. So R87.1 is the Canadian Experience class. R75 is for Federal Skilled Worker Program. And there's another one, I can't remember off the top of my head, that relates to Federal Skilled Trade, but they're all the same principle. You must demonstrate an intention to reside outside the province of Quebec if you're applying for express entry. And if you're already there, a Quebec resident, that can be challenging. If you're a non-resident, well, then maybe it's not as difficult. But there are case law. Dhaliwal is a federal court case, decision of Justice Diner, Justice Alan Diner. And that's one of the only few that really talks about this in detail. So this is where, for lawyers, immigration lawyers, this is where we really have to do our work. Because when we're helping someone like you who might have Quebec-based experience go through express entry, we have to be able to adequately satisfy an officer that the intention to reside outside Quebec really is there. So I'm going to post in the link below here and you can watch. It is my latest podcast and it is called Express Entry Tips to Avoid Disaster. And within there is a slide deck from the presentation I gave to ACADI, the Quebec Immigration Lawyer Association. And you can go through that and you can see the case law, you can see some other discussions, and that's all in the show notes. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, Kelly says, Mark, I don't know if you wish to answer this publicly, but what's your consultation fee to represent me and my family via study permit? Kelly, when I do study permits, these are not something that's just a flippant, easy thing to put together. For a family, I charge $2,000 Canadian plus the processing fees. And one advantage you do have is that I'm based in Alberta. So instead of paying the extra, whatever it is, 11, 12, 13, 14% for sales tax, in Alberta, it's only 5%. So that's one of the discounts. But Kelly, I have no problems talking about that. And when I do a consultation, I do it for 25 minutes because I always send you the information you need to give me through an intake form, and I review that before we ever get into the consult. So I'm not wasting time on that 25 minutes with having you explain your whole situation to me. I've already reviewed it, and we can hit the pavement running, and then that 25 minutes is super chock full of helpful information. And that's how I always start my legal representations, with a consult, because I want to make sure that there's a good chance that you can be approved. I never want to take anyone's money unless I know or am comfortable that they have a really good chance of success. I'll qualify that. If I have a client who says, I know I don't have a real big chance, but I'm willing to pay you to represent me to even try, then in those circumstances I will. But the client knows that the likelihood of success is low, and then they're basing their decision to proceed forward on that understanding. All right, now we've got a question from 4545. Awesome. Hi, Mark. Thank you for all you do. We are at CRS 457. Oh, you are so close. My expression of interest is going to expire in February 2019. Okay, well, I think it's already expired if it's February 2019. I'm assuming 4545 that it's actually February of 2020. And I'm assuming that it's not an expression of interest. I think what you mean is your profile, right? Your express entry profile. So if I drop my spouse and kid from the application, my CRS is 475. What should I do? I'm 29 years old. I'll be honest, 45, I would significantly consider doing that. All right, I'm going to take a little break to get a drink, and then I will be back and I will finish the rest of the question that 4545 has asked. Hang tight, and I will be back in a second. All right, and there's my daughter in the background. I'll be back in a second. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. This is some amazing production, isn't it? There is, my poor daughter needed her cord to her phone, and it was in here. I needed a drink of water right here, and fortunately now I have it, so I can actually I can actually talk. All right. And my poor daughter was talking about, she was lamenting the election results. And our favorite candidate here, Rachel Harder in Lethbridge, who's just a wonderful, wonderful woman. She was elected without any doubt. But at the end of the day, I'm a member of the Canadian Bar Association. And so I try to remain nonpartisan because I have to represent the interests of all of the immigration lawyers across the country. And I also have to interact with the government officials. And so I'm in favor of whoever is helping to advance the interests of all of you wonderful people and the industry that I love, which is immigration. And so in the morning, I'm going to be recording that podcast on the results of the Canadian election and how I feel and how Ravi feels it's going to impact the future of immigration in the next 4 years or less, whatever happens. Okay, so back to 45 says, do I drop my spouse or not? I can tell you that 457, it's been a while since it's dropped down there, and we don't know what's going to happen. Now, you are 29, so in 1 year, you're going to lose 5 points whenever your birthday is. And then that 457 is going to become 452. And the 475, if you drop your spouse, is going to become 470. So it's never an easy decision to decide to list your spouse as non-accompanying. I do want to qualify something. You don't have to remove your child to have yourself assessed as basically as a single, not single, but to have you assessed as an individual applicant. Children can actually be included. They don't affect your points. But if you list your spouse as non-accompanying, that is a decision that you have to make very carefully. And it's not something that I can tell you to do. I recommend, as I always do, when it comes to specific questions like this that are related just to you, 45, whatever your name might be, you have to understand that usually it's best made through a consultation. So we have a chance to look at everything and examine all of the aspects that contribute to your score and confirm that you even have 475, which I'm sure you do. You're getting all of your age points. But the reality is, being separated from your spouse, I would hate to be separated from my wife. You know, we have been married since 95. I'm an old man. You guys probably don't even realize how old I am. I want you to guess. Those of you who are watching here, post in the comments how old you think I am, and let's see if anyone can actually guess. But the reality is I've been married for a long time, and it would be so hard for me to be separated from my spouse. So I know what it's like for you guys. But if it made the difference in being able to immigrate to Canada, and that's where our heart was set, and that's where my dream of being that's where it was at, and the only way I could do that is to leave my spouse behind for a little bit, then maybe it's a sacrifice that you decide to make. Okay, next here, Vikrant says, just enrolled for the EE Lifetime Guide. Thank you, Mark, for such a wonderful offer. Hey, Vikrant, that's awesome. And the rest of you characters, it's 11:42, so you have approximately, 18 minutes to go in, click on the link, and subscribe if you want to take advantage of the offer. Then it's going to be jumping up to $497. All right. Enthru says, can I add... Wow, it's crazy how many people are on here watching this live. It's actually really interesting at like 11:43 at night. Enthru says, can I add a spouse after receiving a nomination from the OINP? When I received an NOI, I had a score of 448 without a spouse. Same thing, Enthru. You and I need to have a chat about that because there are so many different factors at play. There are very, very strong arguments that say you can add a spouse, but when it comes to your score at 448, was your nomination or your expression of interest or notification of interest, whatever you want to call it, was that notification of interest based on that score as it was? And if you removed your spouse, would the score drop? There's a number of different factors. Some people have made it through doing exactly as you have indicated here. Others have not. So we would definitely I'd encourage you to book a consult so we can look at everything in detail. I wouldn't want to tell you, yep, other people have done it, no worries. I would not want to do that because just because someone else has done it, there might have been other things going on. The next question is Dylan. This is so hilarious. He says, OMG, just got home from work and just heard you read my girlfriend's comment, Elliot. I'm lolling so hard. I'm curious if I go for a consultation and let's say it costs me $200. Well, Dylan, I can guarantee that $210 with GST will be money well spent because I will be able to at least give you a clear understanding of what you needed to do. But by no means do I want to be the guy who sides with your girlfriend and says, you need to marry her and so that you can be together in Canada. That's not the case. And aside from your feelings on the US, Dylan, well, that's a separate discussion. So we'll leave that for another day. Okay, so you can see the link in the comment section. I've posted it a couple times, Dylan. Okay, let's keep continuing here. So Kellyanne says, thank you for your time and professionalism in answering all our questions at these weird hours. You are godsend. You're very welcome, Kellyanne. Why do I do it? Because I love it. And, and some people think, well, Mark, why are you continuing to push your guide? Why do you do it? Because, guys, I've taken all of these questions when it relates to express entry, and I've condensed them down into a package that will not only help you guys to navigate it safely, identify the problem areas, avoid them, but people spend hundreds of hours watching, searching for information they can trust. And the reality is I've condensed it all into a super simple, straightforward guide well, when I created it at the time, I'd say my 10-year-old daughter could figure it out. Now she's 14, but it was designed to be that simple. Some people say, oh, Mark, it's so elementary, but they don't understand that embedded throughout the whole video, the whole course, are these nuggets, these gems that help people avoid the most common areas that really cause them to lose out on their opportunity of immigrating to Canada. And so that's how I designed it. But it's also broken down into very specific courses. Individual sections are broken down for each section of the express entry process so that you can skip the ones that don't apply to you and just focus on the ones that you're having trouble with. So, all right. Okay, continuing on. So you are very, very welcome, Kelly. My pleasure. Okay, we are down to 13 minutes for you to purchase a subscription to the EE Do-It-Yourself Guide. Instructions are in the description. Okay, Elliot. Elliot's here again, and this is from Dylan. Continued. Will that price be taken off of the total cost of your immigration services fees if we hire you? If you hire me for full representation, I call it my gold plan, then the consultation, the initial consultation, is included within that whole thing. If you choose to just hire me for my silver plan, then the consultation fee is not included in that $2,500 silver plan. Okay? All right. Braces Dental. Hey, I remember you. I remember you on a past one. Hi, Mark. Is express entry must even if I get job permit under LMIA? As March 2020, I age one more year and do not make 67 eligibility criteria. Thanks. Braces, the thing is, if you have an LMIA, braces. If you watch some of my earlier videos on this channel, you will see that I actually had braces to fix this tooth right here, which is an implant that my brother-in-law made me get braces. Oh my goodness. At my age, crazy. Anyways, I did, and so when I see Braces Dental, that's all I think about is that over a year of just misery trying to eat with food squishing up in those braces and having to try and pick the food out, and it was terrible. But in the end, I've got my tooth, and hopefully I've got my teeth for a few more years. Okay, so back to your situation, Braces. If you have an LMIA supported job offer and you get the work permit and you're working in one of the provinces in Canada, almost all of them will have some form of work permit to permanent resident flip, I call it, built into the provincial nominee program to support you being able to be nominated by that province outside of express entry. There's different rules, different provinces, but yes, the answer is that it is possible. Okay, Salmon says, oh wow, there's a ton of questions here. Oh, now we're getting to the people who are guessing my age. Okay, so let's go back up here. A whole bunch just filled up my whole feed here. Okay, let's see if I can zip through this. Okay, 45 says, if I were to drop my spouse from my current profile, am I allowed to edit the application, or I need to start a new one and refer the old profile? Nope, you can edit it. And once again, if you purchase my Express Entry Do-It-Yourself Guide, I actually have a separate video all about listing your spouse as non-accompanying and a tutorial on how to fill out the actual EAPR for listing your spouse as non-accompanying. But yes, you can, and I show you in a demonstration video how to modify your family members. It's a little link at the top of your profile that says modify family members, and then you can go back in and list your spouse as non-accompanying, and you won't lose your place in the express entry pool. Because remember, the duration of how long you've had your application in the pool, if there's a tiebreaker, the older applications will rank higher than the younger ones. Okay, Dylan says, dude just did some cleaning work at the UOL. Wish I would have heard of you before I went back to Okotoks. Dude, you're here? I lived in Okotoks for a couple years with my family while I was working the first few years of my career with one of the national firms in Calgary. Can't wait to meet you, and thank you so much for your help. Cool, Dylan. Look forward to connecting with you. My wife and I are talking all the time about wondering whether or not we should move back to Okotoks from Lethbridge. But Lethbridge has been good for our family, and I've got just awesome things happening here with all of our family. Okay, Ali says, can I apply for geoscience job? Sure, you can apply for whatever job you want, my friend. Okay, Jasmeet says, hello, sir. Can I convert a visitor visa to a study permit? Not really. And what I mean by that is you can always apply for a study permit, but not from within Canada. If you're only here as a visitor, then your study permit has to be applied for technically outside of Canada. Even though everything is an online filing, it's still considered to be outside. So you would need to leave Canada and come back in to actually get your study permit document. Unless you're a US citizen or St. Pierre Miquelon and whatever else there was, those exceptions that I learned way long ago when I was working as an officer on the Canadian and US border as an immigration officer. Those were good times. And in all honesty, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, is because of that experience. Okay. Marlon says, if I apply under the BCPNP under skilled immigration and get a nomination, would it still go through express entry? Marlon, it depends on the program, and I need to look to see what you meant by skilled immigration. Some are outside, some are a part of express entry, and I need to take a look at it. And I can't tell from what you've got there. Okay, Vikrant says, how can we showcase and prove our intent to live in a specific province? Well, that's pretty easy. Do you have a job in that province? Do you live in that province? And I'm wondering if this relates to the whole 87/section 75 intention to reside. If it's a PNP issue, then it's at the stage of where you're trying to get that nomination, then it's all those things. What ties do you have to that province? Have you done research? Do you know about it? Do you know about your job? Do you know what kind of opportunities are there? All those things are really what we're getting to. Okay, Dylan says, everyone who's watching Mark here is doing a terrific job helping everyone here. Let's help support him. Give him a thumbs up on the like and try to share his videos. He's done an awesome job here. Thank you, Em. Hey, I really appreciate that. I really do. You know what? I think I may start doing more of these on YouTube. This is like maybe the third one I've done live. Most have always been on Facebook. But hey, if this results in more people following and doing it, then I might as well. Everything is new, and I'm trying to figure it all out. Okay, guys, it's 11:53. You have 7 minutes to purchase the guide for 60% off. Look in the description, and you can click on the link, and you can take care of it right away. Okay, I'm taking this right up to midnight here. Once midnight, the clock strikes midnight, I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. Well, it is just about Halloween, but I'm going to have to wrap it up because my voice is pretty much gone. And I do have to get up really early, be to the office to record the podcast on the changes to immigration that could arise as a result of our wonky new minority liberal government. Okay, now we've got the guesses of how old I am. You guys are all so close, but no one hit dead on. But I know you guys said, oh, if he's married in 95, then he must be a certain age. Okay, Enthus is 45. Nope. Salmon, 48. Thank you, Mark, for answering. I guess you're about 50 years old. Oh, come on. Am I really that old? Do I... Elliot says early 50s is my guess. Oh my goodness, I hope I'm not that old. Srikar says 40 to 45. Dylan's 40. Marlon's 44. Kellyanne says, Mark, you're nothing less or more than 51. Vikrant says 49. It's all because I told you guys when I got married. The correct answer that you all danced around is actually 47. So I just turned 47 on October the 1st. Okay. Okay, Suraj says, this is in regards to my previous question on 15 plus hours per week for part-time. The link below says, for part-time work, you can work more or less than 15 hours as long as it adds up to 1,560 hours. I always treat that literally. So I don't treat that as meaning you can work more than 15 hours and accumulate it faster. The reality is it has to be 24 months. So yes, you can work kind of an average of 15 hours. So basically, maybe you work 14 hours one day, 16 hours the next. So you can work more or less. But the reality is you can't work 25 hours and accumulate that 1,560 in less than 24 months. That's what it's getting at. Okay. Deepa says, hi Mark, will my visa be rejected on face if I have drink and drive filed on me a year ago? Yes. Deepa, you will be considered criminally inadmissible to Canada, and Canada actually treats it as serious criminality. So what I recommend, once again, when I'm dealing with rehabilitation, which I dealt a lot with these on the border when I was an officer, we need to take a look at it, and I recommend you book a consult so that at least I can give you an idea of what needs to happen and the timing of when you may then be eligible to get it dealt with through something called rehabilitation. But Deepa, yes, it would make you inadmissible because it's considered to be an indictable offense. And right now, the maximum penalty is 10 years in prison, and that signifies that it's serious criminality. All right. 11:57. You guys have 3 minutes, and then the express entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, which I poured my heart and soul into. That discount of 60% is going to come to an end, and you will be back to paying $497 US for lifetime access. Okay, zipping through here. Looks like it bounced again, and now I've got a whole bunch more. Let's see here. Okay. Suraj says the link below. Okay, yep, got that. Dylan says everyone who's watching, make sure to give Mark a like and share. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. Okay, Suniti says, thanks, Mark, for answering my earlier question. Do you mind suggesting more on R87-1 as several non-QC residents are facing similar refusal issues because of earlier QC stay? Yes, and it's something that I'll have to do a separate podcast on. It probably makes sense to do it, but every situation is different. You have to make the case. Two people could submit the same reasons, and one officer could say yes, another officer could say no. But there is a way forward. Just because you've had some Quebec experience doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be refused. But this is not easy, and it might require submissions that involve case arguments and just really emphasizing statutory limitations and things like that, statutory interpretations. And so, yeah, not easy. All right, 2 minutes. The clock is just about down. Prabha says, I would love to get your guides to apply for express entry. Prabha, you need to click right now on the link that's in the description for this video, and it will take you right to the place where you can get the discount of 60% off for a fraction of what it regular is. And remember, the code, if you're applying through the lifetime access, is EEDIY6060. Okay, Ronak says, hi Mark, I'm recently graduated from Concordia, in Montreal. Currently working with a company in Montreal, and I have 3 years of experience back in India. What are the best suitable immigration options do I have while living in Quebec? Ronak, go to my Canadian Immigration podcast, pull open the show notes, and there you'll find a slide deck. And at the back of the slide deck, it has a lot of different things that relate specifically to Quebec. I finished off that whole presentation on Quebec issues. The podcast itself, I didn't delve into it, but the slide deck does address those issues. And so, yeah, when it comes to the options, especially with express entry, if you've been working there, then for a Canadian company in Montreal, then I will often look, can you be transferred outside? But yeah, if you're currently working there on an employer-specific work permit, and you're based in Montreal, very, very tough. And I understand the current climate in Quebec. It's not easy. All right, guys, it looks to me like the time it looks like it's up. It is 12 a.m. All right, I did not have a chance to answer everybody's questions, but wow, you guys are so awesome. Let me skim through here quick and see. Unlicensed period pharmacists perform the same job duties as a pharmacist can be included in my work experience other than my home country. Salmon work experience is based on duties, not licensing or anything else like that. As long as you've performed a substantial number of the main duties, you've been paid, skilled, full-time, continuous, you can count it. Srikar says OINP nominated candidates process faster in EE. They're processed the same as all other EE candidates. 80%, 6 months. Dylan, she is crazy. That's awesome. Navjot, hi. She's crazy about your age. That's what I was responding to. Yeah, definitely not 50. Good night, Dylan. See you later. Okay, can illegal work in the same occupation of mine without paid tax and other than my country can be counted? Anything outside of Canada, we don't care if it's legal or illegal. You just have to be able to prove it. Reference letter, pay stubs, things like that. Okay, Srikar says, hey Mark, you missed to answer my question on OINP. The message is before I guessed your age. Okay, when it comes to OINP, let's scroll back here because we don't want Kusva to be disappointed. So let's see what we've got here, if I can find it. I don't see it, Kusmov. This is what happens when you're trying to be thorough. I do not see in my feed your question here. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm going to have to catch you another time because I don't see it here. Okay. Srikar, actually. Okay, Srikar, let me go back here. The things I do for you guys. Okay. Hi, I applied for OINP on September the 12th and the status never changed from submitted. Does this have anything to do with elections? No. That's a simple answer. It doesn't have anything to do with elections because the elections are federal and the OINP is provincial. So no linkage between that, my friend. Okay, scrolling down quickly to see if I can catch up to the comments before they end here. Kellyanne, you're such a young chap. Yes, I am. Navjot, postgrad work permit, working food service supervisor, 1 year. My lawyer said I can get 50 points for a job offer in LMIA. However, I don't have it. Well, if you don't have an LMIA, then you're not getting any points for that food service supervisor. You only get them, and you're never gonna be international mobility program and working as a food supervisor. So the LMIA is the only way that you're going to get it. Navjot, yeah, you're not in an LMIA exempt category. Well, you are. If it's a postgrad work permit, you are. But your job offers are only issued if your if your work permit is employer specific. And postgrads are open, so won't happen. Elliot, have a good night. Dylan and I need to go. I hope you'll be hearing from Dylan. You're such a blessing. Take it easy. You bet, Elliot. Happy to help in any way. Navjot says, can you apply for my express entry? 100%. Click on the link and and book a paid consultation, and we can go from there. Yes, Ranok says postgrad work permit. Aditya says, if I get an AIP and the 600 points, can I remove a certain company's work experience after the fact? My CRS decreased by 25 but remains higher than this cutoff score of when I got the PNP. You never want to remove anything. I don't know why you would want to do that, Aditya, but I recommend that you maybe we book a consult and take a look why you want to do that. All right, Salmon says you're awesome. Kuspa says the salary of illegal work I was getting as cash, not in the bank. Is it possible only to give experience letter? The document checklist for express entry says provide a reference letter and pay stubs if available. Those are the minimum requirements. If they have other reasons to doubt or question, then the onus is on you to be able to prove it. Alan says, will CRS drop down to 458? I can't say one way or another. I think it's going to be really tough, but maybe they'll have a big boosted draw as a reward for winning the election. Maybe the Liberals will do that. I'm just joking. I don't think they would actually do that, but it's hard to know. But at 458, you put yourself in a good spot for the OINP for their notifications, and potentially Alberta if your occupation's in the right location. All right, guys. Whew. Just after 12:05. Thanks so much for joining me on this amazing live Q&A. I've definitely got to do this more often. 1 hour and 23 minutes. That is insane. All right, guys, this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Canadian immigration. Bye.